Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. I am John Schmelk. He is Paul Dottino. We're taking your calls, 201-939-4513. Final days of OTAs here at the Quest Diagnostics Training Center. We'll talk about that. We'll wrap up OTAs. We have a little procedure we did here with a bunch of the Giants' opponents. We'll do that. And, of course, we will, again, take your calls. If we still don't sound right on the stream, folks, we're working on it. It's the streaming service that we're trying to work through. They're working on the problem on their end. So we'll give you our live helium shows in case it's not working. But luckily the archives, and the reason we still do these live is so we have the archives. We can put those up. Pearson will get that up as soon as possible. Sounding good now, Pearson? Hey, looks like we're back. The helium has been removed. The chipmunks are out of the building, and we're rocking and rolling. Good job, Pearson, getting that done. He was here late yesterday trying to fix that problem. So excellent work.
That's what IT is, Paul.
Yes.
There you go.
The IT of department at it again.
They don't do graphics.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So here's our little game today. But first, let's wrap up OTAs, Paul. One more OTA here, OTA number 10. There were literally 10 competitive snaps over the course of practice.
Right.
It was all for the young guys, the vets. Not a day off, but they did walk-through stuff. They did individual drills. That's it. So Brian Dable giving the guys a little bit of a break on the final day of OTAs before 2 days of minicamp next week.
Yeah, I think the first thing before we talk about a couple of plays that were made is to talk about the fact that Dable did do that. This was the 10th and final OTA before next week's minicamp, and for him to do a walkthrough for the final two-thirds of today's session basically tells you that he's satisfied. Because if there was stuff he did not like over the last couple of weeks, I don't think he would have cut today's session short like he did. That's just not the way coaches go at this. Because let's face it, these spring drills are limited as they are, and coaches want to make use of every minute that they can get their hands on. So for him to make that decision tells you that he's in a good place right now with what he has seen, with as much as the guys are allowed to do. As far as the practice itself, what did we see? We saw two really nice plays in the passing game. Cager with a bomb down the left sideline, made a nice grab of about a 35, 40-yard pass. We talked about it in our OTA video. And then also Giles made a real nice stretching stab going across the middle on a laser beam from DeVito. Those were the two really sweet plays while they were in 11-on-11, and then things broke up, and as we said, it got a lot lighter after that.
All right, here's our fun game today. We went through, it took me a couple hours this morning, it took Paul a couple hours too, went through all the Giants' opponents, and we kind of pulled out one player. Paul did one player from each team. I kind of narrowed it down a little bit more than that we would, if possible, be able to grab off each of the opponent's teams on offense and defense, and the trick, though, is that it cannot be a player that's made the Pro Bowl, an All-Pro team, or was drafted in 2024. So what player can we take off these rosters that would help the Giants most? So it's a way, A, to take a look at maybe who some of the emerging players are from the Giants' opponents, but more importantly, where we think the Giants could still use some help on their roster to make them a better team. So the exercise kind of serves two purposes here. So, Paul, why don't we start with the NFC East? We did offense and defense separately here. Why don't you go through the teams? Frankly, I had trouble finding someone from Dallas that I thought was really valuable just because most of their good players have made Pro Bowl or All-Pro teams. So the guys that hadn't, there weren't a ton of those guys that I thought were choices, but I'd like to hear your NFC East players that you selected off these lists.
All right, well, I'll go Dallas first.
Yes.
I took tackle Terrence Steele.
Okay.
All right.
Right tackle.
He has not made a Pro Bowl as of yet, but he's a sturdy player for them.
He's fine. I mean, he's average. He's okay.
Yeah, well, here was the problem, okay, as you said.
Yeah.
Their other, quote, star players have all gone and disqualified themselves by either becoming All-Pro or Pro Bowl.
Yeah, I was hoping Deron Bland hadn't, made the things last year. They did. Trayvon Diggs, multiple Pro Bowl appearances. Jordan Lewis is a guy I thought about just as a slot corner.
Well, on defense, I took Donovan Wilson.
The safety.
Yeah.
See, I would think if I went defense for Dallas, I didn't actually check this. Did Osa Dickey-Zua make a Pro Bowl?
No.
That would be the guy I would pick off their defense.
Okay.
Because you want a 3 technique? That's a 3 technique you could put next to Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah, so I took Steele and Wilson for Dallas. For Washington, I took Austin Eckler, running back who has not made a Pro Bowl, believe it or not.
He's never made a Pro Bowl, really?
Never
I
has.
just assumed he had. I put Brian Robinson down as a potential power back to pair with Devin Singletary from Washington.
Okay. And then I took Armstrong.
Dorrance Armstrong?
Armstrong, who just left Dallas to go to
The
Washington.
Washington defense is a little threadbare.
So it was Armstrong and Eckler were the guys I took from Washington.
And then the Eagles were tough, Paul. And I kind of tried to narrow this down to just a couple guys I take from all the opponents. But two of my finalists that I was kind of deciding between as we started the show was Devonta Smith and Jordan Mailata. Those are the two guys that I circled on my list. Neither one, believe it or not, has made a Pro Bowl or All-Pro team, and they're both excellent players.
Yeah.
I think I would lean towards Mailata. The only problem is that he's a left tackle, not a right tackle. So you would have to change positions for him in order to fit him in. But those are the two guys on offense that I kind of plucked off the Eagles.
I took Devontae Smith, and I took Jalen Carter on defense.
What do you think about Mailata? Would he be a consideration for you there?
Absolutely. But you asked me for one when you sent me the message.
Well, I know
So-
what I'm asking. I want to have the debate here.
Yeah.
If you could add a top tackle, but he's a change positions versus adding the top wide receiver, why'd you go with Smith over Mailata?
Basically because I got very top-heavy on receivers on my list. And I just said I'm going to take the most explosive guys I can get my hands
So
on.
you think overall Smith's a better player than Mailata?
Yes, at his position, yes.
Wow, it's tough to change Paul's mind on players. That's the one thing I've learned about you. You tend to stick to your initial thought, and you were never a big Devonta Smith guy.
To this day, I would still rather have Jalen Waddle.
No, that's fine, but
And he was my guy in that draft.
I know he was, but you recognize, but now you've
I
accepted
recognize
that
what Smith has done.
and he's done a really nice job.
Okay. It's undeniable. He hasn't got to a Pro Bowl, believe it or not, but he's been undeniably productive. So, yeah, I would have gone there.
Yeah,
I mean, you'll see I have other offensive linemen on my list.
Oh, I know you do. Well, that was one of the tougher decisions for me as I went through the list. So I was just curious what your take was on that.
All right.
And I have Jalen Carter on defense too. You could think about a Nolan Smith, but he didn't really do much in his rookie year.
It wasn't hard for me.
Jordan Davis, I like Jalen Carter a lot better than Jordan Davis.
It wasn't hard for me.
It wasn't that was the only guy I had written down. He's highlighted too. So Jalen Carter, he might actually be he was in my final five as the top overall defensive player to take from any team, given his upside. So, all right, let's jump. Why don't we jump to the NFC South? Because that's who the Giants have to play in the NFC. So why don't we go there, Paul?
Okay.
Unless you have a team you'd rather go to.
No,
next,
that's okay. Atlanta, I had Bijan Robinson and A.J. Terrell.
Yeah, I had A.J. Terrell. He was the guy.
Terrell.
No, whatever. Same difference. He was the guy on. He was the guy in defense I had. And he was one of my five finalists, too, as maybe the defender that I would want out of all these teams.
That was
easy.
easy.
Second corner. That was an easy one for me. I got really annoyed. I forgot Kyle Pitts had made a Pro Bowl in his rookie year until I looked it up and I couldn't take him.
Correct.
I think Drake London's in the mix there, too. He's a skyscraper. I thought you would be tempted by the Drake London skyscraper.
I took Bijan Robinson.
No, and I think that's fair.
That wasn't a hard one either for me.
Okay. No, I think Bijan Robinson was also in my final 6 on offense. I'm with you there. For the Saints, I thought Chris Olave was the easy one on offense.
Easy.
I agree.
Same guy.
Where'd you go on defense?
I went to Adebo, the corner.
Yeah, there weren't great choices on that Saints defense to me. I had trouble finding a good player there. I'm with you. All right, let's go to the Buccaneers here, Paul. Did I have anyone in my finalists for the Bucs? I had Kalijah Kancey as a potential guy on defense to be a 3 technique next to Dexter Lawrence, but I ended up going with Jamel Dean, the cornerback. I wanted to plug him in as my cornerback too.
That was not a real easy decision for me. I wasn't thrilled with any of them. I took Jordan Whitehead at safety.
Whitehead, interesting. I figured there was a bigger need at cornerback, so I went Dean there.
That's fine.
Where'd you go on offense for Tampa?
Rashad White.
Yeah, that was. I don't have one Buck player written down here on offense.
White.
That was a rough go.
White's a productive running back. He's legit. And again, he didn't he qualified because he didn't make a Pro Bowl or anything like that. So I was like, yeah, Rashad White's okay.
All right, let's jump to the Panthers. Where'd you go there?
Carolina. This was easy, and this would be my defensive player overall, J.C. Horn.
He's just been so banged up early in his career.
I would love to get my hands on him.
Okay, that's fair. No, look, you want to pick an upside player at a premium position.
He's only a couple years in the league now,
I have
John.
no problem with that.
So there's a lot of upside still there.
Totally agree, and I liked him coming out, so I'm with you. Offense wasn't so easy, though, I'm sure.
Well, it kind of was because I had got one of my favorites is Ike Ekwonu.
Oh, he has not played well.
He has not played well.
No. Post is going on prior there.
I went on the fact that I love this guy coming into the draft and wanted him here, so this was my chance to take him.
You would move him over right tackle?
It was my chance to take him.
slide
Yes,
him over to right
absolutely. Absolutely.
I believed in the player when he came out. I know you didn't, so we're going to disagree on this, and that's fine. I would take Bryce Young.
That's okay.
The first overall quarterback. His situation last year was terrible. Look, he played terribly. I'm not going to try to make believe he didn't. But that was as bad of a situation a quarterback has been thrown into in the history of the league. So I would roll the dice there on the QB and see if he can play better with a better situation around him.
So neither of us were exactly thrilled with the Panthers offense.
Well, there's a reason they won 2 games last year.
Exactly. So I just went to an old fave from the draft.
Yeah, exactly.
And
so
that's why I took it.
And I did the same thing
exactly.
with Bryce Young. Who am I missing out of the NFC South? Who didn't we do yet?
You did New Orleans, you did Tampa, you did Atlanta.
Carolina.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, that's all 4 of them.
We're good.
I didn't
We're
miss
good.
Anybody. All right, let's go to the AFC North then. That's the other 4-team division the Giants are playing. So let's go there next.
Okay.
Let's start with the Bengals. Offensively, I think you got to go to Higgins, right?
Easy.
The problem is that you got to pay him. That's the only drawback with T.
Well, you
is that
didn't
you
put
got
a
to pay him.
stipulation on contracts. You just said no Pro Bowls.
I know.
No all
you
NFL,
can
no
take
all
the
pro.
contract
No
into consideration.
This is fantasy football. No contracts.
We're team building here, Paul. We're team building.
Go ahead.
Who'd you have on defense?
Sam Hubbard.
Okay. I had trouble finding a good defensive guy off of the Bengals.
He's a solid edge player.
No, he's fine.
Hubbard is solid.
He's a good player. I agree with that. Let's go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, Paul, on defense. It was actually tough. There were 2 guys here that I liked. Joey Porter Jr., now more of a press man corner. So
I took
worry
Porter.
about him in the zone.
I took Porter.
And then I like Keanu Benton, the defensive tackle. You put him next to Dexter Lawrence coming into his second year. I think that would be a real nice pick, too. So I thought the Steelers had a couple good young defensive players you could plug in there, but neither of those guys have made a Pro Bowl.
Those are legitimate choices, but for me, Porter was a real quick one, and then George Pickens on offense was easy.
Pickens was the guy I had written down, too. I don't think I had anyone else written down from that offense. Yeah, that's what I went to. I had Pickens written down, who I don't love. And, there's off-the-field stuff there. He said some stuff, there's some immaturity, but good player. So I agree.
When you looked at that whole offense, he was the productive guy you had to have.
Totally agree. Ravens offense, Paul. I went Zay Flowers.
Yep. So did I.
So we're on the same page there. Where'd you go on defense for the Ravens? Because a lot of their best defensive players actually had already made Pro Bowls. So
I know.
I did not have a really good name there.
Actually, the reason it was easy is because those guys all eliminated themselves, and they left only one really good player left, Brandon Stevens, the corner. He was the only one left that had not made a Pro Bowl. So that actually wasn't hard for me. He wasn't a name that would have come to mind right away. But once you saw the guys who eliminated themselves, Stevens became easy.
All right, let's go to the Browns here, Paul. Where'd you go for Cleveland?
Cleveland, I took, here's my tackle, Jedrick Wills.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
That's easy. And I took Greg Newsome at corner.
Took Greg Newsome. I went Owusu Koromoa. I think he's a
Pro Bowl.
No, I didn't see one on the list on Pro Football Reference.
Last year.
Did he really?
Yep. Jock went to the Pro Bowl.
Damn.
Take him off.
One of us made a mistake.
Take him off. No, just find somebody else. That's all. Pick somebody else.
All right, I'll figure that out. I have no one else that I would go in my top 5, so that's okay. Again,
Newsome's a good pick.
No, he's fine. I narrowed it a little bit more than Paul did, so I don't have one guy from each team if I didn't like anybody.
That's okay.
All right. No, I know. Let's go to the Colts, AFC South. I had Michael Pittman Jr. on offense for me.
Bingo. Michael Pittman Jr.
All right, so we're on the same page there. And then on defense for the Colts, I Julius Brents, the corner.
We just talked about the guy on the show yesterday. Quiddy Pay.
That's a good one.
Those 2 were easy for me. I didn't have much time to even think about those 2.
Corner's such a need, and Brents is a big, long guy that I think would do well in zone.
I got some other corners on my list already, so I went Quiddy Pay.
That's fine. All right, let's jump now back to the NFC. Let's go Vikings, Paul.
Minnesota. Jordan Addison at wide receiver.
That's who I have as well.
And Grenard at edge rusher.
Oh, he's never made a Pro Bowl, huh?
Nope.
That's a good one. Yeah, I didn't love anybody off that Vikings defense. And then finally, our last team is the Seattle Seahawks. Defense, I went Boye Mafe for the Seahawks.
Yes, I got Mafe.
Second-year player. I liked him come out of the draft. He had 9 sacks in his second year. And then offensively, did I have anybody? Oh, no, and for the Colts offensively, I also had Anthony Richardson down. If you want to roll the dice on a quarterback, by the way, bring him in.
Better than Bryce Young.
I know he didn't Oh, I mean, neither one. Young Richardson barely played last year because of his
I know,
health, and he's
but
got a
I-
sore shoulder.
I think Richardson
But-
has more talent.
He certainly is more physically
Yes.
gifted based on
Yes.
his size, speed,
Yes.
and arm strength for sure. Offensively, then, for the Seahawks, I did not have anybody of note written down for them. Oh, Abraham Lucas, the offensive tackle.
I had Noah Fant.
Okay.
That's it.
Abraham Lucas has started a right tackle, has been a pretty good pass protector, so I had him written down as a potential right tackle.
Yeah.
Who do you think, on both sides of the ball, last one we'll do, the best player from your overall list on offense and defense? Figure it out. If there was one guy from your list that you could take on offense and defense, who would it be?
I would love J.C. Horn at corner on defense
Interesting.
because
Okay.
I think his upside is really, really good.
I would go A.J. Terrell, I think,
That's
on
okay.
defense.
That's a solid pick.
Because he's been more...
And we're both going corner.
He's been more reliable than Horn.
No doubt.
Horn, you're right, might have more upside, but I want the guy that I can bring in and be reliable. The problem is you are going to have to pay A.J. Terrell coming up here. He's heading into his 5th year, so that's going to be a thing. But I like Terrell a lot. If I had to pick one guy, it would be Terrell. And then the other guys would be in the mix for me would be Jamel Dean. Because, again, he's like a 5th-year corner who's still young and has shown he could play the position well. And then the two guys up front, Jalen Carter and Keanu Benton, will be the two guys up front that I would consider. But I think I would go with Terrell when all is said and done on defense.
And then on offense, as much as I have a bunch of receivers on this list who are 1,000-yard receiving guys, I mean, how could you not, given the apprehensive feeling about the Giants' rebuilt offensive line, how could you not go with Jedrick Wills?
You know what?
That's just too hard for me not to do.
And I didn't mention this guy with the Vikings, but I did have Addison down, and I missed him on my list. I have Christian Darrisaw written down.
I thought about him.
30-year offensive tackle. You don't have to pay him yet. So honestly,
you're putting contracts in the way
I know,
now.
that's fine. Well, again, when the guys are close, I'm making that a thing. So my 5 finalists on offense were Devonta Smith, Chris Olave, Drake London, all good wide receivers, Jordan Mailata, and Darrisaw. Those are my 5 guys on offense that I kind of came down to, and I had trouble deciding between them. Because of the Giants' offensive line situation, I think I would end up going with Darrisaw, just because he's a little younger than Mailata. You haven't paid him yet, and that's where I would lean. And he hasn't played right tackle. I know you have to move him. I get all that. But I think I would go with Darrisaw, just because he was a good player coming out. He's been really good since he's came in the league, just a 30-year player. He's a guy you could plug in there and kind of be a long-term solution to tackle.
And the bottom line is, you and I both took a tackle and both took a corner, which probably should not surprise anybody if you had to narrow it down to a finalists.
And I tried to find the tight end on my list for these teams.
Well, Noah
couldn't.
Fant.
Yeah.
Okay. It was about the best available.
Well, I know.
Given what was out there.
I know. I didn't think there was a whole lot out there from the teams.
And to
on
be
the
honest,
Giants'
given the
schedule.
parameters you gave me, I did not have anybody else on the Seattle Seahawks on offense that I really wanted that
I didn't
badly.
look it up. Did Jake Ferguson make a Pro Bowl?
Yes.
He did? Yeah, that's another guy you could throw out.
You know how I love Jake Ferguson.
No, I do.
But
I do.
I knew right away. I mean, I was like, as much as I want to take Jake, he went to Pro Bowl.
Yeah,
Can't do it.
And I wanted to take Kyle Pitts, but he made the Pro Bowl in his
There you
rookie
go.
year. So
There you go.
both of us got, bamboozled on that one. But
I'm guessing Hawkinson made a Pro Bowl, right?
oh yeah,
Yes.
Hawkins has made a Pro Bowl. I
Yes,
think he made one
yes.
last year before. He didn't play in it, obviously, but I think he was elected to the
Yeah.
Pro Bowl last year despite the injury. And then on defense, I was looking at defensive tackles and corners. Those are the 2 spots I was kind of focusing in on, and any linebackers too. I was open to, which is why I had Owusu Koromoa down there, even though I apparently messed up because he made a Pro Bowl. But
all right.
I know. But that's kind of where we landed.
It was, it was an interesting exercise, and the toughest part, and we talked about this briefly this morning. We didn't compare our guys. 'Cause
No,
we
we
didn't want to do that going onto the program, but the interesting part, or the intriguing part, or maybe even the challenging part, was trying to make sure the guy had not been voted to the Pro Bowl or been voted All Pro. I mean, as you said, we both had a couple of guys at least that we were like, oh, we'd like to take him, and then you checked it like, oh, no, he went to the Pro Bowl. Can't do it, disqualified.
Yeah, I'm trying to find.
That's what took me more time than anything else, to be honest with you. Figuring out if my guy was
I know.
disqualified.
No, yeah, it really did. I'm trying to find the name of the gentleman on Twitter that sent this question into me a couple days ago. He kind of, I say, guys, send them into on Twitter. You can email us, bigbluekickoff@gmail.com. Any ideas like this that I think are interesting that will, fill some of our off-season programming. And I'm trying to find. I'm going through my mentions here. I'm trying to find who sent this in to me. But one of our great listeners.
Well, we
sent that in,
thank him. It gave me something to do during the Yankees rain delay last night.
And by the way, Chris Harvey did write in. He said he thought you undersold how great Dan Fouts was, and he wanted to bring up Wes Chandler. As
Undersold Dan Fouts?
I was surprised by that, too. You kind of said it was like one of the best quarterbacks you've ever seen, so I'm not sure how you undersold
In terms
him.
of pure thrower?
No, I know.
Are you serious? Now, you know what? We did not mention Wes Chandler. That was an omission in terms of one of his targets, but absolutely did not undersell. Dan Fouts, man. Hall of Famer, and, you know, although Eli's numbers compare very favorably to Dan Fouts, which is one of my arguments, Fouts is in.
Different eras, though.
Different era.
It's very hard to compare overall
different era.
numbers from
Totally
then to
understood.
now.
Totally understood. But one guy has 2 Super Bowl MVPs. One guy doesn't have any. Just saying. Anyway.
I can't find the guy. I'm probably going through this too quick, and I probably missed
But
it.
no, not underselling Fouts at all in terms of just being able to drop back from center and letting it go. Man, Fouts was like a video game. He was unbelievable. Loved Dan Fouts.
And they even had video games back then, so he was a video game before there were video games.
How true? How true? Big Dan Fouts fan.
Excellent beard, like when he became a broadcaster.
Yes, that's
fantastic beard.
That is also true.
Really, really, really good beard.
That is also true.
I can't find. I'll see if I can track
him
this
and
guy
Merlin
down.
Olsen had really good beards.
I'm not sure I could pick Merlin Olsen out of a lineup. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, you could. Sure, you could.
I don't know.
Sure, you could. He was a Little House on the Prairie.
Oh, that Merlin. Okay, yes, he also had a very good beard. That is accurate.
I mean, I know him as a lineman with the Rams, but Little House on the Prairie would work.
Mr. What was his name?
Oh, I have no idea because I don't know him from that. I just know he played in it.
My sister loved Little House on the Prairie, so she had it on the house a lot. So I've watched a lot of Little House on the Prairie because of that. But and I can't remember the guy's name, what he was in. Oh, this is gonna annoy me now. I should. If my sister was listening to this, she would come here and slap me upside the head. But anyway, I'll see if I can find this. I'm not finding it right now. All right, 201-939-4513. Don't forget, guys, go subscribe to the John Settle podcast.
Jonathan Garvey?
Jonathan. Oh,
Wait.
Mr. Garvey. Yeah.
Garvey.
He was Mr. Garvey. That's exactly what he was. He was really big dude. He was like the neighbor down
Oh,
the
he
road.
was a big dude, all
He
right.
would help them with all sorts of chores and stuff. Good dude. All right. By the way, John Settle podcast. Right now, we have our most recent bracket breakdown up there with Bob Papa and I going through the white bracket, and we'll get the Paul's breakdown of it as well. I have 3 calls I want to get to first.
Yeah, do it.
But also, if you go back to the episode prior, it's my long conversation with Cynthia Freeland, going into a lot of details on her offensive line evaluation using various metrics, workout metrics, physical body types. Just a lot of good stuff that I know will help me a lot when I'm scouting offensive linemen moving forward here in terms of how these guys are going to play. So, again, you can find the Giants Settle podcast on Giants.com, the Giants app, or go to Giants.com/podcast. And if you subscribe to any of our podcasts and Apple Podcasts, leave that 5-star positive review. It will really help us out. 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. Let's go to Jay in Phoenix. He will lead us off today. Hi, Jay.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
We're great.
Great. So, hey, I was wanted to talk about Jalen Hyatt. Just listening to him talk yesterday, it's great to hear even the coaches talk about him, how he's more confident. And coming into this year, he looks like he's added some muscle to be able to hang on the outside and push back on some of those cornerbacks. One of the things that really stood out to me, though, was Dable talking about him. And this is something that I noticed last year. I don't know if you guys noticed this a lot, where coming out of the huddle, Daniel Jones or whoever the quarterback was often had to redirect some wide receiver, it was often Jalen Hyatt, to the other side of the field. And Dable made reference to this yesterday where he said, I would say that this offseason in terms of breaking the huddle, getting the line, knowing what to do, he's made tremendous improvements in that area.
Yeah.
And I think that's really going to go a long way. And also, I think some of that combined with them not knowing what route to run makes your quarterback look a lot worse than maybe he really is.
Sure it does. And remember, too, beginning of last year, too, Wanda Robinson wasn't all the way back and healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And, look, Hyatt's never going to be some big muscular guy. Like, you still see him walking down the hallway. He was walking down the hallway without a shirt on the other day. And, like, he's still a slender dude. Like, he's never going to be some muscle-bound powerhouse. That's just not his body type.
No.
But he certainly, he worked on it in the offseason. You hope that can help him get off a press and do more than just beat guys over the top. And we've seen flashes of that in the spring. The problem is that there's no contact, so he's not getting pressed. Corners can't be physical with him. So until we see him with pads on, going up against opposing corners, those joint practices that we're likely to have against the Lions and the Jets, the preseason games, I don't think we're going to have a good feel for in terms of on-the-field improvement, Jay, of how much of a leap he's made. But I think we all hope that in year 2, remember, he can't. We were pretty clear about this last year. He came from a very rudimentary system in college where they didn't ask him to do a ton. Now a route tree, simple college system, the old Baylor, Art Briles offense. So it was going to take time for him, and now you hope in year 2 he's able to step up and have more of an impact.
I think the best way that I could allay your fears on this is when he came out of Tennessee, I was not in favor of taking him because I thought he was too wiry and was too slender and would be strictly a slot guy because outside corners on the boundary would beat the stuffing out of him. I did not think coming out of the Vols that he was going to be able to deal with the physicality of the National Football League on the outside.
And by the way, that's why he probably fell to the 3rd round of the draft.
I absolutely believe that. Now, when they took him in the 3rd, it was like, all right, well, maybe that's a pretty good gamble if he can, mature and get that body into NFL-ready shape. And, of course, what happened? He gets here, and as soon as he gets here for rookie minicamp, I'm talking to him, and he tells me how he's planning on adding 15 pounds before the season starts. And that was like music to my ears because...
And I don't think he added 15, but...
You know what? I don't know where it finally landed.
And they did ask him yesterday how much weight he did.
He refused to say.
He did not say.
He refused to say.
Yes.
So I don't know exactly where he landed, but I will say this to you: from watching him play last season, I feel as though he is better equipped to deal with that challenge than he was when he came out of Tennessee, and that's the best way I could describe it to you.
And yeah, that's great, and I think that. The latter point about being lined up, knowing where you're supposed to be, the mental aspect of it will really help him and the other receivers, for him, year 2 in the system.
Yeah, and look, and just real quick, Jay, this is a complicated offensive system.
It really is.
I'm going to sit down next week, and I'm going to do all my player interviews that'll air over the course of July, and a big conversation I'm going to have with a lot of these wide receivers, the young guys, and other new rivals on offense about how complicated and complex this offense is, especially the passing game. So people should kind of stay tuned for that because it is very, very tough on young wide receivers.
Absolutely. The other thing, too, I love, John, that the play on the elk for tight ends has gotten so much play this week with you guys.
Yes, it really has.
Because I called in on that earlier. One thing, and again, Paul may not be too into this, and I totally get it. But if you're looking at animals, again, do the herbivores on offense, the predators on defense. And that's just a thought there. Anyway, and then my last thing is I've called into the show enough. My 9-year-old Whitney always calls out and says, "Hey, could you mention me?" And I said, "Okay, what do you want me to tell them?" And I said, "Who's your favorite player?" And all she did was the Tommy DeVito hand gesture. It was hilarious. So.
I think that works. You got it, right? You knew what she was talking about. It works.
Oh, absolutely.
It works, baby. It works, right?
See, now what I thought you were going to do, Jay, I thought all she did was the Dexter Lawrence sack dance. That's where I thought you were going to go with that.
Ooh, that would work too.
It's funny to hear my 9-year-old call him, Whitney, call him Sexy Dexy. It's hilarious. So, anyways.
Yep, and probably not the best. Yep, I appreciate it. Thank you, Jay. Good stuff, man.
By the way, Rocky Squirrel would be Dre Miller, I think.
What?
We're talking about animals. You're talking about animals in different positions.
Yeah.
I think Dre Miller would be Rocky Squirrel.
You mean like Rocky from Rocky and Bullwinkle?
Yeah.
Why?
Because
is Rocky fast?
Well, he's a squirrel. Have you ever seen a squirrel run across the road? They move pretty good.
Yeah, sure.
And they're very compact and small, like a matchbox.
Well, kind of like more like Roadrunner, you think? Like Roadrunner?
Again, he's very compact. I think he's Rocky Squirrel.
He's Dante Miller, by the way.
Yes, Dante Miller. My apologies. I think I said Drew. Did I say Drew?
Dre.
Dre. Yeah, Dante Miller.
But yeah, Little Turbo.
It's Drew
right?
Phillips.
So,
Drew Phillips.
Yes,
that's the other name. Some of these guys, they go by like shortened nicknames of their real names.
Yeah, and then they all get
confusing. And then it gets very confusing.
By the way, I found that K-Bomb at Mets Mavs 910 is the guy that sent in the question for the opposing teams guy. So thank you for that question. Excellent question. They gave us something to talk about today. Let's go to Big Ed in Maryland. He's up next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. What's going on, Big Ed?
What's up, Big John and Big Paulie?
How you doing, man? Good to hear from you.
I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good, Big Paulie. I tell you, you know. I'm doing really, really good.
What do you got, Big Head?
I just have a few things, you know. I'm just curious how we set up on offense right now. If we were going to play today, everybody able to play, how we set up on offense?
If everyone's healthy, I think Daniel Jones is your quarterback. Devin Singletary is your running back. You're running 11 personnel with Hyatt. You know, this is interesting. Who are the 3 wide receivers play week 1, Paul?
Right now,
it's
Hyatt
and
Slayton.
And Slayton, yeah.
Slayton's got to start.
I see. I
got to start.
I think it's Slayton, Neighbors, and Wandell.
On the first play?
Out of the slot, though.
Wandell may wind up with a whole lot of snaps, but I don't think he's playing the first snap.
I think over the season, Wandell plays more snaps than if they're both healthy the whole year. I think he plays more snaps than Hyatt.
Oh, I think that's absolutely possible. But right now, I'm just saying Slayton's got to be in my top 3 right now, and I can't.
I had Slayton in my top 3.
Oh, well but that was what I said.
I didn't have Hyatt in my top 3.
I
think Wandell in instead of Hyatt.
I think Wandell early in the season will play more than Hyatt, but by the end of the year, depending upon what Hyatt's upside is.
So play 1 is Wandell in instead of Hyatt.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because you would Hyatt ahead in front of Wandell. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
You said Slayton, Hyatt, Neighbors.
Right. Oh, I see what you meant. I got you.
I had Neighbors.
So you weren't debating Slayton.
No,
you were debating Hyatt.
I had Slayton in. I was debating Wandell versus Hyatt.
Yeah. I
like how you just assumed I was debating Slayton.
I don't know why. That's kind of what I thought. Yeah. But okay. Yeah. Wandell would start over Hyatt, I think.
But then Neighbors would be outside too, which is something you have to take into consideration.
Yes. I would think so.
And then on the offensive line, assuming Evan Neal's good to go, Neal right tackle, right guard Runyon, center Schmitz, left guard Illuminor, left tackle Andrew Thomas. And then do you want us to consider Waller in or out, Big Ed?
I mean, here's the thing. It's like if he's able to play, he wants to play, and everything's fine, then he starts. But we don't have to lay everything on him because of the rookie that we have.
I'm not sure the rookie's out there snap 1, Big Ed. I think it's Bellinger.
Mean, it's not. Okay, well then Bellinger, that's fine. Either way, I feel like this is a good year for growth because they played with each other, but now this is like a little different. Mm-hmm. It still is going to come down to those injuries on who stays healthy because from what I'm looking at on Visionary, you know, this is our monumental year. This is our 100 years of L'Haim all the way, right? So we have to win. But we got to win, right? And then as far as the wide receiver thing, right, they're all going to get their catches, but they got to spread it out throughout the whole season because somebody on certain games going to get big catches because of who they're playing. It's the matchup.
Hey, look, the fact that they have 4 guys that they can put in there and be pretty confident about, I think, is a really good sign. So if one guy does get hurt, to your point, you're not scrambling.
And Big Ed, to your point 30 seconds ago about the wins, let's just say for the hypothetical of this conversation that the Giants win 9 games. All right? Let's just say that. Throw it out there for a moment. Well, yeah, 9 games gives you a chance to be a wild card team, but more importantly, it's which 9 games do you win?
And last year, 2 9-win teams did not make
You
the
win the wrong 9 games, you're home.
From the schedule we got, Paulie, man, we should win. I mean, this how Big Ed do it, you know, because it's the New York way with me with this one. But I say we win in like the first 12 games. But that,
you said the same thing last year, Big Ed. How'd that go?
Right, because you know how we are. Come on, y'all.
I know how you are. I don't know how we are. I know how you are, Big Ed.
No. I'm talking about the Giants thing. We always look great on paper, right? We always have great players, but we always have a problem with the thing of being injured.
Big Ed, I'm going to be honest with you. You go back the last 10 years, the Giants have not always had great players every year. They haven't.
Right, but they could have had a good system to win in. Man, I miss Tom. Tom, if you listening, Coach.
Yeah, but Big Ed, think of the last Big Ed.
Run through a wall.
So would I. I love Tom Coughlin. Nothing but good things to say about the man.
Yeah.
But think of the last few years of Tom Coughlin with his great system and all the great coaching. How many games did they win?
I know, man. I know.
Because the players weren't good enough.
There was not enough here in the building. That's just the way it was.
Yeah, man.
And Big Ed, be
Yeah.
honest, Big Ed. Be honest with yourself
Yeah.
for just a minute here, seriously. And I appreciate the fun you want to have about the season. We all do. But if you're honest with yourself, you look at this team, and I was talking to John about this the other day. I don't necessarily see huge, gaping, cavernous holes in this roster, but what I do see are a lot of unproven spots. And there's quite a few unproven spots.
Yeah, and I'm going to go to my man Len in Columbia, Maryland. We haven't heard from him in a while. I was texted with him the other day, though.
He was on yesterday.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Oh, man.
And
tell Lynn I said hello.
We
man.
will.
We got to somehow connect.
yeah, so
Hey, man, are we still on for the Hard Knocks Life?
yeah, absolutely. That
With
starts
the,
the first week of
football?
July.
Okay.
First week of July.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So I was
take my
texting with Len briefly, and the reason I'm referencing him is that Len's all about the stars, right? Like, do you have?
Right.
And you think on defense between Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns and hopefully Kayvon Thibodeau, hopefully Deonte Banks.
Okereke.
Yeah, Okereke as well, 100%. You have enough difference makers on defense, right? The problem is that defense is always. It's not usually how many stars you have, it's how many holes you don't have, right? Because you can have stars on defense, but so you have holes, teams can just attack those holes.
They will find the Achilles.
They can find the Achilles, right?
Every time.
So you like the star power on defense, but do you have your holes all plugged? You think you have guys that might be able to do it, but to Paul's point, they haven't proven it yet, right? On offense, here's the problem, Big Ed, to be totally honest with you. You have guys on offense that you like the talent. The Giants, and if Waller's not back, the Giants do not have one proven commodity that has been a difference maker in this league on offense.
Your headache players in Philly.
And the guy you hope is going to be your headache player has never played an NFL snap.
Bruiser.
Right.
Has never played an NFL snap. Hyatt is a second-year guy, and Robinson is basically a second-year guy because he lost a whole year because of an ACL injury. So you're relying on
Slayton is the most proven, probably,
and
right?
and Singletary, right? I put Devin Singletary and
proven.
Slayton Pearson. Good point.
As solid players.
Proven as solid players, but not
They're
stars,
not headache players.
right? They're not guys that neither player's ever made a Pro Bowl.
They're
As
not
far as-
headache
I haven't
players.
looked at Singletary. I don't think Singletary's ever made a Pro
No,
Bowl.
he has not.
So
But yeah, man, we need a team. That's what it's about. We
right,
gotta
but
make
on
sure this
offense,
team is
you
a solid
need.
team.
That's why offense and defense are different, Big Ed. Defense, it's great to have stars, but you can't have holes because teams will find them. Offense is different. You on offense, you dictate. You choose where to attack. You choose who gets the ball. You need stars on offense. That's how it plays. So you hope that these guys can develop into those guys. And Big Ed, thank you very much for the call. We really appreciate, as always, you dialing in and having comments for us. Can these guys develop into those difference makers on offense? Can the offensive line protect Daniel Jones enough? Can Daniel Jones play well enough to turn these guys into dominant players? All these questions are ones we do not have answers to. We think there's hope. We think there's potential, but we haven't seen it yet from these guys, and that's just where we are.
John, you said it best before. The Giants' best hope to have a headache player on offense is Neighbors.
And he hasn't played a snap yet.
Not one. Not even a preseason snap yet.
Right.
We've seen OTA snaps. That's it. And you're going to go from OTA snaps to being a headache player? That is a hell of a long journey to go.
I mean, they're just – even all these first-round wide receivers and talented guys we've had over the years, rarely does a rookie become like that star headache player
Well, look
in
how
his
long
first year.
Odell came out with the soft tissue injury as a rookie, missed a whole chunk of his rookie
he didn't
season.
do anything until week 4.
So, even there, because of injury, that derailed him and delayed his ability to become a headache player.
I mean, these guys we talked about on our list, right? Guys that we talked about that were really good players. Jordan Addison, he didn't have 1,000 yards last year. Really good rookie. Didn't have 1,000 yards. Zay Flowers, really good rookie. He didn't have 1,000 yards. Took Michael Pittman time to get going. Drake London's awesome. Do you know how many 1,000-yard seasons he's had? 0. Not one. And he's a really good young wide receiver. Olave, I think he got over 1,000 his second year, I
think he did.
And Devontae Smith has too. But again, you look at even these young guys that are some of the top young wide receivers in the league, they haven't had 1,000-yard years yet, a lot of these guys. So it's just, there are exceptions. Like Jamar Chase, year one, headache player. Hit the ground running. Justin Jefferson, year one, headache player. Hit the ground running.
Maybe Neighbors can be that guy.
Maybe he can.
But we don't know.
But there's no guarantee of it. We got to see it. We got to see it. That's it. 201-939-4513. We have a couple open lines, folks, if you want to call in and give us a call and chat with us. Let's go to Scott in New Mexico. He's up next. Scotty Doo.
Hi, guys.
What's up?
Hey, Paul, if you mentioned Rocky, you didn't mention Boris Betinoff.
I'm not familiar.
It's my son's favorite show.
I really haven't seen Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Okay.
Oh, wait, Boris and Natasha, right?
Yes.
I know them.
Right,
okay,
of
yeah,
course.
I got it.
Anyways,
Would you like to try a Russian accent for me?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead.
so what was I thinking? Oh, here we go. Right now, to me, the preeminent position in the National Football League, other than quarterback, is now the defensive tackles of the league. I mean, the list is endless. Dexter Lawrence, of course, Chris Jones, Quentin Williams of the Jets.
I would still say it's edge players, Scott, but I understand where you're going with it.
Yeah, because the sacks the Giants gave up were not from the tackles; it was through the guard and center.
Well, right,
And
because the
so-
Giants guards and centers did not play well last year, quite frankly.
Right.
There's a reason
And
they
the
have all
reason-
new guards, and John Michael Schmitz was a rookie, so.
Correct. And what I think the player that has to step up the most is John Michael Schmidt, because these guys are going to line up over him. And the best way to destroy is to get a pass rush in the inside. And so I was looking at the teams in the NFC East, and I wanted to get your opinion in regards to who do you think right now is leading in the best center guard tandems. In Philadelphia, you have Cam Jorgens taking over for Kelsey, and then you have Landon Dickerson and Tyler Steen, and then you're probably going to have Cooper Beebe, most likely at center in Dallas, with Tyler Smith and Zach Martin.
I mean, if I don't have to include the center, I'll take the Cowboys' two guards, Tyler Smith and Zach Martin, if you let me do that.
Yeah, but
Nope,
you can't.
It has to be the three guys.
You can't.
In Washington, you have Biadasz from Dallas, and then you have Nick Allegretti, who's good, and Sam Cosmi, who's good.
Yeah, you could take the Commanders and just throw them aside. It's going to be either Philly or Dallas.
Okay. And then, of course, the Giants, you have Runyon, and right now you have Illuminor, unless, obviously, Neal doesn't play well.
I would probably go Dallas just because of the star power at the two guard positions,
Yeah.
and you hope they can help Cooper Beebe, the center, out.
Mm-hmm.
So I would probably go Dallas in that ranking system.
Yeah, I think you have
Okay. So with the Giants, do you feel right now that who they have? Am I right in saying that John Michael Schmidt has to show improvement? Not that he's not a good center, because I know he's gotten a lot of compliments from Brasillo in regards to his intelligence, and he has to call out the defensive plays.
Yeah, I have zero worries about his intelligence and the mental part of it. I just worry about him blocking guys. And he does have to get
physical
better.
guys,
Scott,
right.
yeah, he does have to get better at that part of it. There's no question.
He is on the smaller side of centers in this league, and he himself said his top priority in the offseason was to block at the second level and to sustain those blocks. He knows
Right.
what he's got to work on.
So do you think right now, as you're looking at the Giant offensive line, the second question I have for you is there's only going to be, 3 preseason games?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And there's only a limited amount of time to develop a core or a
Starting five.
Right, of the starting 5. And there's a limited amount of time you can do that because you're trying new players in OTAs and then minicamp. Is it important for the Giants in the preseason games to play the 5 guys that they're going to play instead of mixing and matching
Yes.
for the 3 preseason games, unlike the other positions that they're going to have, because if the continuity is not developed between the offensive line, they're going to be in for a long season.
I don't think you need them in all 3 of them, Scott, but I would like to see the starting offensive line together for at least one set of live snaps. If you don't do them in the games and you just do them in the live practices against the Lions and the Jets, I guess that's good enough because maybe you don't want to expose Andrew Thomas to live bullets, and I get it if you don't want to do that. But I would like to see the group together in some live action.
I've always felt that way. The problem is the logistics and the reality may not allow you to do what you'd like to do in theory. And why do I say that? Because Brasillo says that he'd like to have the starting 5 intact by late in training camp. Okay, that's what he would like to have. Here's the problem. If you say you're going to give him the dual practices, the Giants are going to have 3 of those before the Detroit game, which is the preseason opener.
They're not going to play in that game because they're going to take all the reps during the weekend practice. Correct.
All right, so now that's early. So that's too early for him to have the starting 5 set during those 3 practices with Detroit. It's too early for him.
Yep.
So that doesn't really fit into your schedule real well. Then you got your second game is at Houston. All right, you would assume that maybe you're getting a little bit of an idea and you want to start 5 guys in that game. All right, fine. But now you go against the Jets in the preseason finale and you only have potentially 1 dual practice with the Jets, and then you're playing the Jets, and now preseason is done. So if he settles on his starting 5, what, before the Jets practice? After the Jets practice?
I think for the Houston game, you want to know who your starting 5 is.
Well, that's probably a little early. When Brasillo said late training camp,
3 weeks in.
he might want to do it a week later.
I know, but you might not want to play Andrew Thomas.
Well,
in the
that's
last
the
preseason
problem.
game.
That's the problem.
Well, that's why, again, you might not have it set, but you put the group out there that you think it's going to be, because I'm sure at that point they'll have a good feel for what they think it's going to be.
You hope so.
You put those 5 guys out there against Houston for a series or 2, and you try to get them some work together in live situations.
See, the shame of it is that the 3 dual practices with Detroit is before the preseason opener in week 1.
Right.
I almost wish that those were later. If that was against Houston or against the Jets, if it was week 2 or 3 of the preseason, it would match up with Brasillo's timetable a lot better, at least as I see it. I might have it wrong, but as I see it, that would have been a better fit for them. But that's not the way the schedule is working out.
Okay. Last question that I have. If Evan Neal's foot doesn't improve, say by the time minicamp starts, and you're going into the season...
It was an ankle, just for the record, Scott.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Last year.
An
It's
ankle.
okay. That's fine.
Well, that's part of the foot.
Yeah.
Football's gonna get to the
That's
ankle
okay.
bone, right? Yeah.
That's okay.
But would you... It's sort of a loaded question. Would you start Evan Neal, or would you now change the dynamics and obviously start Illuminor at right tackle and get another guard to play the position?
I would expect
how much of a leash do you actually give on this, where he doesn't have a lot of reps and you want to put him in the starting lineup for the first game? That's the question I have. Are you willing to just let him be there? And if he screws up, how many games does he screw up before you substitute? But my biggest qualm is if he's not ready for the season based on the injury, do you actually put him in the starting lineup for the first game?
I would.
And I'll take the
Thank you, Scott.
off the air.
Appreciate the call. Well, I don't think that's going to be an issue because I think he's going to be ready to go by the start of camp.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the indication.
Yeah. I think you feel good about that.
Here's the good news. They opened with Minnesota, which at the moment has totally decimated their pass rush during the offseason. They lost their 2 top sack artists.
They did bring in Jonathan Grenard, though, who's a good player.
Good player. We talked about him earlier in this exercise. But when you lose your top 2 guys, that's a big deal.
Zadarius Smith and Daniel Hunter, just for the record.
So, I mean, one of them is gone too.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a pretty much a toothless pass rush for the most part in Minnesota.
Oh, don't start that already.
All right, I won't.
Start that already,
But
please.
Look, it's better than facing the freaking juggernaut pass rushers that the Giants have had to face.
Don't call it toothless. You're kissing death in the first game pass protection in June.
But compared to the juggernauts,
I know.
look who they've opened the season with the last 3 years.
How about we go? Not one of the best pass rushers in the league.
How about a
we go with
challenged
that?
pass rush? Is that all right?
I'll live with challenge.
All right, a challenged pass rush from Minnesota. So that somewhat alleviates the stress issue. But here's the thing, and I agree. To some degree, the sensible move would be throw Illuminor out at right tackle, but now you have to replace 2 spots instead of 1, and coaches would always rather just replace 1 body than having to deal with 2.
Yeah, I think the plan is to have Neal out there at right tackle.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. During the spring, we've seen Azudu play an awful lot of right tackle and left tackle.
But not Illuminor.
We have not, which makes you wonder that if Priscillo is given a choice of, okay, what do you want to do? I'm not so sure he's going to move Illuminor out to tackle. He seems to be, at the moment, kind of anxious to see if Azudu can do it.
We'll see. Now, he might just be
don't know.
He might be so comfortable with Illuminor at tackle, he's like, well, I don't need to see him there.
Could be.
Straight. But
could be.
He hasn't played guard in a while. Let's get him in there at guard and get him some work at guard. So
we'll know more in August.
We'll have a better idea to see what they do when they start having contact and seeing where they play these guys, what Evan Neal's health status is.
Right.
But if, for example, to your hypothetical, Scott, that Evan Neal doesn't practice a lot in the summer and he's kind of just coming back for week 1, I would not just throw him out there at right tackle.
I wouldn't either.
I think that's a recipe for it's not good for the player and it's not good for the team.
No.
You take your time with him. You make sure he's ready. You have your backup plan. Again, whether that's Azudu, whether that's Illuminor. My guess is that if you think Neal's a long-term thing, that it would end up being Illuminor and they'd shift him back out. But we'll have to wait and see what happens in the summer to see if they do that. But I would not just, sight unseen say, all right, you haven't played in a preseason competitive practice or game. Go start right tackle in week 1.
Can't do it.
You're setting them up for failure and you're setting up your team to play poorly. So I would not do that.
And let's not forget, you have a quarterback coming off of an injury too.
Right.
Don't put him in jeopardy.
201-939-4513. Let's go to our final call. Wilson in Roxbury. Wilson, what's going on?
Hey, I don't usually call twice a week, but I had to call twice.
No, that's okay. What do you got, Wilson?
And listen, Giants fans love Sterling. We love Sterling Shepard. But tell you the truth, I want to see Sterling Shepard play as much as I want to have a root canal. Why can somebody tell? I understand that players, it must be hard for them to let go of the fame and probably the money. I understand.
Wilson, it's not fame and money. They love playing. It's the only chance he's going to have his whole life to play. And if a team Wilson, just hold on. If a team calls you and says, we want you, and we'll give you one more chance to try to play, what's the harm in trying?
And Wilson, he's not playing for the Giants. He's going to Tampa. You don't have to watch him. And, by the way, he's playing with his college buddy, Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was his quarterback in college. He's playing with his old buddy again.
Wilson, he might not even make the final 53, and if he doesn't, that's fine.
Johnny, I guess my point is this. Every time I saw Sterling play last year, I cringed. Because, look, he can, he's got his health. He can walk straight. He can walk with that. He's one hit away. How many injuries? I just want to, I just thought that somebody will just get into his ear and say, listen, Sterling, man, you know what, maybe it's time to quit while you're ahead. But
now, Wilson, and it sounds like based on, I hear you. No, Wilson, based on the quotes, it sounds like he was ready to retire. Like he was ready to say, all right, I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to ride into the sunset.
Had other conversations with teams.
Yeah, and he actually turned other teams down that had reached out to him. Thank you, Pearson. You're 100% right.
This was a Mayfield thing. He said Mayfield called him and said, they're talking about you. What do you think?
And Wilson, I would think of it this way too. I would think of it this way too, real quick. I
hope it works out for him. Like I said, we all love Sterling.
No, I hear you. And Wilson, real quick. I would just think of it this way. If there's something that you build your whole life around that you love to do, right? The last thing you want to do is sit there 5 years from now and have a regret and say, I should have given it another shot and I didn't. You'd
Johnny,
rather give it another shot and fail. That's it.
I understand, but you can go the other way and something can go wrong and say, you know what, I should have quit while you're ahead. So it can go
absolutely.
either way.
No,
Johnny.
that's fair. That's fair too.
Okay.
I got you.
And listen, and my final thing, and hopefully this moron, Nick Sirianni, because this guy must be the the most unintelligent coach in the NFL. If he thinks that Giants fans, right, care that Saquon Barkley went there, I mean, he did us a favor. Good luck with him playing 9 and 10 games and maybe, getting a couple of 100-yard games and, just, I mean, why can't we talk crap about them? Like, you guys are nice, you guys are nice, and I wish that, some of this stuff will get to him and tell him, listen.
Well, Wilson, beat him. Finish with a better record than the Eagles for the first time in a long time, and then you could talk all the smack you want.
I know.
That's how it goes.
I mean, you had to win last year, which is nice. That's a good way to start it.
Unfortunately, the Eagles are still in the playoffs and the Giants weren't, so it's hard to say something.
Paulie, but you know what I'm saying, right, Paulie? Because you hate them as much as me. Tell me the truth, please.
Well, listen, but Wilson, here's the difference.
Hate is a
but here's the
maybe.
difference. Here's the difference. Okay, when you get that kind of speak, so out in the media, these wisecracks by certain guys who like to have a chip on their shoulder and like to flaunt that chip. Okay, the best way to deal with it is to either ignore it or quietly use it as backdoor motivation.
Beat them.
And then after you beat them and get your revenge and start giving them a difficult time, then if you wanted to say a little something back, that's when you say it.
That's more for the players. What are we gonna fans like myself? What are we gonna do? We can't play. So all we gotta do is, if he says something stupid about us, we'll say something stupid about.
Why? What's the point? What is the point? Why would you want Brian Dable to say in response to Sirianni? It makes no sense.
No, he doesn't want. He just wants to say something himself. He doesn't want Dable to say.
Oh, okay.
He just wants to say.
Oh, I thought he wanted Dable to say something.
No, he just wants to say it himself.
Well, Wilson, you say enough of crazy things. I don't think we need to help you or give you permission. Okay?
No, listen. I'm not a Brian Dable kind of fan, but he's got a lot of class, though. I mean, you have to admit, and I think it'll be okay this year. I just, like I said, he's a moron and he's saying stuff like that. And I want to tell him that we don't care that you got Saquon Barkley, moron. You can have him. I would have shipped him myself. I would have drove him down.
Thank you, Wilson.
Thank you for the call, Wilson. We do not endorse that, just for the record, okay? Wilson makes us laugh. He's funny.
He is funny.
But
he is funny.
Nick Sirianni won a lot of games for the Philadelphia Eagles. He had some issues at the end of last year that they need to figure out because that team kind of, literally fell apart on them.
Yes.
New coordinators. I think his job was actually at risk at the end of last year.
Seemed
when all
like
was said
it.
And done.
Seemed like it.
But we'll see. And, he does some histrionics on the sideline, for lack of a better word. Acquired taste. But it is what it is. Go out there and beat them. Look, all you can do is go out there and beat the Eagles. And for a fan, you keep your mouth shut. And you know what? I hope you did talk some trash to the Eagle fans at the end of last year after the Giants did beat Philadelphia. You can do it after an individual game. That's fine.
You could.
But you know how you really stick at the Eagles fans? You
get a few wins, not just one.
You finish with a better record than they do, and you make the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
You win the division. That's how you stick at the Eagles fans if you're a Giant fan. So go out there and win football games. Winning solves everything.
This is true. And let's see, the Giants, I wanted to put the date on this. Giants don't get a shot at Philly until October 20th. Whew.
It's not that late.
7 weeks in.
Last year wasn't until December.
I know. But it's 7 weeks in. So
you actually have a lot of NFC East games early. You're done with all your NFC East games except for one by the end of November.
That is true.
Only one NFC East game in December, and that's the final game against Philly.
And that was one of the negatives that I had in my schedule analysis. I much rather have more of them later. Anyway.
It is what it is.
Yep.
Paul Dottino, good stuff.
Yeah, very interesting program today, John.
Yeah, fun show. I had a lot of fun. So next week, folks, there is no show on Monday, just FYI. We have our media day here, which is basically the day where we shoot all the stuff that goes up on the scoreboard during the games with the players. The networks are here. They do all the headshots for the players for their graphics and their game broadcast. Pearson has to help with all that. I'm out there. This is when I do all my player interviews. Last year, I think I did almost 40 of them, and those will go up as Huddle podcasts over the next few weeks. So we're out of bodies, to be quite frank with you. So we will not. Paul will be celebrating his daughter's wedding. Congratulations, Paul.
Thank you, sir.
So he will be, I believe, on the Jersey Shore, correct? Somewhere on the beach relaxing? on Monday?
Whether I'm there or back, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to make it back by 12:30.
You're not going to be here for 12:30.
No, I'm not going to be here for 12:30.
Anyway, congratulations. Have a fun
Thank
weekend.
you. I hope so.
Send our love to the family.
Appreciate it.
And your daughter. Congratulations.
Keep the rain away.
Yes, keep the rain away indeed. So no show on Monday. Then we're back for OTAs on Tuesday and Wednesday. Then players are done until the end of July. But we'll keep having shows for you up until the week of the 4th of July. Then when we take our week hiatus that week, and then we'll have some different things going on over the course of July for Big Blue Kickoff Live and the Giants Huddle podcast. Make sure you tune into that as well. We have next week, by the way, Monday, our Purdue Giants Huddle podcast. I talked to head coach of Purdue and the running backs coach from Purdue. Really good stuff on Tyrone Tracy Jr. That's interesting. So make sure you guys check out that Huddle podcast on Monday. For Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmelk. We'll see you next time on Big Blue Kickoff Live.